by, and so many of us were experiencing burnout, and we just were tired of seeing that happen.
Okay. Yeah.
Nadia.
How's ODS going?
It's
Good?
about to start.
We're about to start? I'll talk when it's live.
Yeah, it's live.
Hooray!
It's live now?
Yes, it is.
Woo!
Thanks
Thank
for-
you. Sorry, what was the question?
We're just sharing about what's something you feel teammates kind of accomplished since we started, or something positive that you've taken this being part of this group and seeing. Rusty.
Yeah, I agree with Anne. I think the biggest thing is that we're able to screen employers and post listings that we all approve of and we think is fair. And that's been hard. I remember coming into this industry and thinking like $12 an hour, I was so lucky, right? I remember I worked at this company that there were so many other younger, new to industry composers, and we're all working for these big shots. And I remember looking at them and being like, you're as tired as I am, right? You worked at 4 a.m. too, right? We're all eating at tacos por favor or whatever. And how powerful it is to look at people who work in the same industry as you and share the same feeling. And how were we not doing collective action before? Why did it take so long as it did? There was nothing in the early 2000s until when Kenny started this whole group up. And I think it's amazing that we were even able to start it. And I think, Kenny, you've really moved Earth to make this happen. And how lucky are we to have someone who was able to stick their neck out for the rest of the industry?
Do you want to add?
Thank you, Nadia. That was very touching. It's all there. You heard it from here. And the one thing I'll add to all of this is we really took that kind of authoritative power out of the tyrant composer's hands. No longer can they say, oh, it's you who are lucky to be here. No, it's them who are lucky to have all of us. Because they can't get it done without their teams. And power to the people who are actually creating the notes and the frequencies that people are hearing on these film scores and game scores. They come from us. And it's not just these people at the top of the pyramid who get all the glory. So that's what we're all about. And aside from that, we were just sick of seeing people getting hurt, and that was the big crux to make us want to go do this. I've seen people who took abuse, took harassment, gave up their dreams, decided maybe composing's not for me, I'll do one of the other 100 or so small jobs that are around in the scoring industry. And that to me was enough to say, no, this is not right, this is not what should be happening. We as assistants and future composers should be nurtured, should be taken care of, and should be shown the light and on how to enhance our own careers while we help someone else's career in the current. So that's what Teammates is all about, and it couldn't be, and I couldn't imagine having this much success with the group so far, and that's because of all of you and all the people behind me right here. And we're not anywhere near done yet. There's still a lot to go, and we're on a rocket to get there. So thank you, everybody.
You guys already started touching on this. Really, sharing some of what it has been like to start for our experiences. I just want to ground for a second that we all started at a time in the past. How long ago? But we all started at different times than the now, right? The world has changed a lot since then, and the one standard thing that you'll hear about this industry is that it's always changing, right? So there's always change happening. So even the pathways that we experience getting into this industry are not necessarily the pathways that you may see as you enter this industry. And I want to ground that just for the reality of like, as we are sharing our experiences, please know that we're aware that like that may not, like that's not the same, and we hope it's not the same, right? We hope that it is better and different than what we've gone through. But I wanted to just kind of ask, I wanted to ask all of you, like, what excites you about the early career stage now, as we are kind of post that 2019 moment? And you have touched on this already, but maybe you, I know Sarah and Mike, I'm going to pick on you two, specifically wanted to kind of talk about this a little bit. And in terms of, what do you excites you about this new career stage? What's something you wish you knew then? What do you see happening now, or experiences that you can share on building teams and just kind of that whole area of you're starting your career? And yeah, Mike, Sarah.
Pretty good this question.
I didn't agree to this at all. I can go first. I think one of the beautiful things that's kind of leveled the playing field for all of us, and this is obviously wearing my personal badge on my shoulder, like technology has massively changed the game to make this field accessible. It doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean that everybody that needs would pay like $23,000. They take out basically home loans to pay for specialized rigs from Zimmer, and that was the basic entry point to be able to compete for them. And now you can get Logic and a MacBook or any other laptop and get to work within like $1,000 or $2,000 budget and actually make something that can compete with everybody else if you build up your own personal skill set. And so being able to basically generate your own learning and your own ability to succeed, I think is a major game changer for people starting out, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and being intellectually curious is a big one. If you're just genuinely interested in learning about, you just love what you do and you want to know more about mixing and everything. Obviously, we know there's so many tools. Anne has provided a lot of them, and as well as how connected we all are, especially with teammates and everything. But I mean, we're not in this room so big that you can't at least talk to us in a group like a chat on teammates or something. It's like we're small enough of a community, and really all the people that I've met at this level and stage in their career has been so helpful and just willing to put in work to help you succeed. I mean, obviously you want to reciprocate, that's how it works, but to see how many people will actually come through for you, and if you do that for them, I mean, yeah, it's you can build a lifelong relationship. But I am digressing. But yeah, I think that's the connection
on
is
community,
yeah.
which is fairly in our title, right? Yeah. Okay, that's great. Please do that later. One thing that I noticed about that is like I go to teammates for questions. I'm like, how do I use my dot? I ask mine. And it's great. No, it works. But like I didn't like that accessibility factor is so huge. It was there was a different entry level of being able to get access to that knowledge, and now it's really special. And I love our tech help threads, guys. I learned so much through everything that you all talk about of how do we push the buttons.
Real quick, if you're not familiar, we have this amazing Discord server, and the Facebook group is cool, but Discord is really where the party's at, and I always keep saying it. The conversation is ongoing every day, and it's just a great place to be. And Zach just alluded to the tech help threads, which is a place where if you're having some trouble, put up a tech help thread. You'll get help likely within the day or within minutes, and you can get through your tech stuff. So yeah, Discord, be there.
Okay, we're kind of all past that early career stage though, and I've really been struck lately in my own personal life of just what that transition feels like. And I wondered if you all, I have specific notes, but anybody who wants to talk on this can talk about this. I have found that Anne and Jordan wanted to talk on this. But I wondered if you guys could share a little bit of what that transition has looked like. What are some of the milestones that either you've had, and what strategies and mindset shifts were kind of crucial during that transition? What helped you realize that, I'm not really in that early career stage anymore. I'm somewhere else, and what does that mean for me now?
All right, then I'll start. There's this weird period where at some point the assisting just isn't for you anymore. And when I came here to LA like 11 years ago, my number one goal was just become an assistant, learn from my heroes, and make some income because I was hella poor. So I needed every dollar that I could get. And so that was my objective. But your objectives kind of change with time as you further your career and as you get older as well. Priorities change. And there was a time when eventually, after I want to say 4 years, I was just coming out of remote control from an internship, and I was called by Sacred Tiger, which is Henry Jackman's company, to do another unpaid internship. And I was like, do I really want that? Because at that point I had done all the assisting already, and I had done additional music, all the tech work and all this stuff. And I just felt like I was ready. And I was seeing all those assistants in those rooms at remote control, and I was like, I have done this. I don't think I would enjoy doing this again. It's not something that I see myself doing again. And I don't know, something inside me just made me say no for the first time ever. And funny enough, the next day, a huge opportunity also called that secured me financially for a couple of months. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna take this as a sign, and I'm gonna transition out of this whole assisting thing. So I'm just gonna pick specific people that I still need for money, basically, for an income, to keep a roof over my head. People that I enjoy working with. I dropped everybody that I didn't enjoy working with. They could recommend me for something, going on the hunt for an agent, and just putting myself more out there, starting the YouTube channel, starting the whole social media game, the self-marketing. But it was kind of, for me, for financial reasons, it was a slower transition because I couldn't just cut off everybody and just be like, I'm gonna do my own thing now, because I would have been homeless. So that wasn't an option, but step by step, I started saying no to assistant things until people just stopped calling for it. And that was also around the time where I had enough stuff going on my own to sustain myself for a while. So I don't know if I would, the only time you can really quit cold turkey working with other people is if you really have the financial resources or gigs lined up that are going to secure you, and I didn't have that. So I did a mixture for probably 2-3 years, and then I made the full transition into my own business.
I'm gonna highlight. You said saying no, which that's a very powerful thing, and also takes a ton of self-assuredness and kind of confidence to pull that off. And Ariane, I know you've talked about this a lot in terms of experiencing how to how do you get that? That's not easy, to be able to say no and to have the confidence to do that and make that transition. Can you speak a little bit about? I want you to say the mental health things. Okay, great. Yeah, we're there.
That's fine. So pretty much.
How did you start saying no? You said no recently.
Well, I started saying no after, and I think all of us have kind of mentioned the same thing, where we're put into a situation where we are let known that, oh no, you should be thankful being here, you know. And the three, I always think that, you know, negative situations, yes, they're horrible, but there has to be a learning moment somewhere. Not for them, because they're going to continue doing it no matter what, but for us. And I think that's where the saying no part, where it's like, well, this has happened already twice. Something needs to change, and it's not going to be from them, because obviously this is a preset community that has existed in Hollywood for decades. It has to come from myself. So that saying no from me was, well, I have to just stop chasing, you know, the dream, at least for me, of just working with someone that I looked up to, or someone who, you know, they're doing great things, and then having seen them behind closed doors and being told certain things that you shouldn't tell people. It's like, well, I refuse to believe that that's the fastest way to Hollywood, to commit to 80 hours, 90 hours, 100 hours a week, making less than minimum wage. And, you know, our mental health takes a toll of that. So I quickly decided, you know what, I'm just going to do me 100%. It comes with tons of risk because I have no one to go and butt myself. But I'm okay with it because I'd rather fail as myself than succeed as someone else's shadow. So yeah, so pretty much, you know, like Anne said, juggling different jobs within the industry, sound design, mixing, composing. And again, it's like planting a seed. You don't expect to feed a family if you plant a seed today and hope to feed yourself tomorrow. You know, it takes months, it takes years. So with just that and patience, little by little.
Zach, when you first asked the question, Cali sort of whispered to yourself, the question was something along the lines of like, oh, so we're all more or less out of the early career stage, and Cali's like, wait, are we? That's kind of my response as well, but I guess for me, and I think at least some of us can probably, or may have had a similar experience. Leading up to the end of 2018, I had been working as an in-studio assistant for about 4.5 years at that point. And I found, especially looking back on it, there was a certain amount of complacency that came with that, because the person that I work for is a good person. He is a good and kind person, and he paid me well. And one of the benefits of, you know, our community here is that the conversations, the candid conversations that we have, as we all were talking about earlier, makes me really appreciate how lucky I was to have fallen in with a person who treated me like a human and gave me what opportunities he felt he was capable of. And yet, amidst all of that, there is always this future promise of like, okay, well, eventually we're going to expand, we're going to hire more people, which of course we eventually did, and then we'll do co-writing. I'll throw some minutes to you. You know, maybe we'll do a co-score. And it's okay, this is good enough. I'm keeping a roof over my head. I'm feeding myself. I'm doing all of the things that you need to do to be a person and live, as Sarah said, in one of the most expensive cities in the world. And yet, nothing ever changed in 4.5 years, not meaningfully. And that's okay. I mean, it's not, but it is. And then at the beginning of 2019, an opportunity was presented to me to additional write for an A-list composer on a really, really big film. And I had just hired and trained 2 more people, so I took an opportunity, and it went well, and I kept writing for that person for the remainder of that entire year on a bunch of different projects. And all of a sudden, very quickly, I was working solely out of my home studio. And for the longest time, when I was in that sort of assistant purgatory, I was just like, I want to get to a place where I can be a full-time additional writer and then fill the gaps with my own projects and eventually tip those scales in my own favor. Where sure, eventually, and of course I still do, I think we all would take additional gigs, additional music gigs whenever they come around, because frankly the budgets are better than what we can do ourselves, and as are the royalties. And so that transition kind of happened pretty abruptly, and the pandemic hit and everything went away, as it did for most of us who weren't doing animation or games. And that's when, Zach, you were talking about a mental shift sort of took over, because 2019 was such an onslaught that it was a different kind of work, and it was definitely a transition with it. There was no time to think about this stuff. But then all of a sudden there was all the time in the world, and to think about the shift from being, you know, succeeding as someone's shadow to to being an entrepreneur, to owning and operating a small business, and to tending to our own gardens where, maybe this plant needs more water and care than this plant, but you want your whole garden to be healthy. And what does that look like? Your finances, your mental health, your craft, your tech. All of the things that go into doing this work have to be at least surviving, if not healthy, or it's just not going to work. And coming out of the pandemic, letting that sort of mind shift inform the kinds of work that I would take, the kinds of work that I would seek, and the things that I would say no to because they were either not worth it financially or the cost to my health and sleep or whatever else, and just understanding that boundaries and should be put in place. And it's just very
The amount of self-care involved in that, like both of your responses just highlight that. I will say, I get so much of value from our community as a whole and this group specifically, just that reminder, we have to slow down enough to be able to do any of this. And that's the challenging thing when you're in, longer work environments for sure, to invest in building your community, and building relationships. And could you guys touch on that? How, that's a whole other part of this. We are so focused in on how do we make this sample sound exactly the way that we want to, or there's a lot of energy and focus put into being really good at our craft, right? Being really good builders. And then there's this whole people part, which we're trying to do together tonight. You can let us know after the fact how good we did. But we're trying to do some people, we have to do people together. And that looks very different. Can you guys talk about how do you people? How have you felt confident doing people? And Nadia, how do you do people? I saw you light up. I'm just me. I'm sorry.
How do
I'm
I
on
do
spot.
people?
Yeah. How you do it really well from the other side.
We're not going to talk about my Twitter.
Ah.
Let's not talk about that. It's interesting because being a composer, running your own business, you kind of have to be really self-sustaining. You need to be okay working alone, okay not seeing anyone. But I've always been an extrovert, and I've always thrived off of just talking. And I think working in a small building, networking is such a nebulous topic. We think we need to gain something from whoever we meet, but really it's about making friends. And this is repeated on LinkedIn so many times, and I feel so cliche for saying it, but it's about remembering people, remembering who they are, what they've done, details about their life, and just being interested in them. And that is, I wish they taught that in college, but they don't, right? They don't really teach socializing. But it's also part of running a business. To be someone who represents yourself, you also need to be likable. And we know a lot of composers who aren't likable. But I think striving to be someone who is remembered and someone who I'm trying to find a better word to say it, but someone who people want to work for, and that also includes being nice and compassionate and having empathy for people, and taking the time to really understand where everyone's at besides you. And yeah, that's my tip of socializing, but it's not that great.
To piggyback off that great answer is to be in service to other people too. It's this town is very, what can I get, and it's how can I help this other person. In any relationship that's going to be successful, you have to think about the other, and hopefully you do that for the right person, and they will, like I said before, reciprocate. But people will remember when you came through for them. I remember because unfortunately there are a lot of flakes in this town, and I'm a recovering flake myself. Thanks, guys. But I made it. I said I was coming, and here I am. But truthfully, when you tell someone you're going to be somewhere, make sure you don't just agree in the moment and like you just want to make them happy in the moment. Okay, yeah, I'll agree. No. Look at your schedule. I am free that day, and barring for getting sick or something, show up. Show up. Honor your commitments to people. Honor your word. When you say you're going to do something, do it. And if you can't do it, of course things happen, but that's a big one, and people will remember that. I will remember that, because I remember flaking on people and how hurt it would make people and how people thought I was unreliable. And so that's a big one. You will create some very strong bonds that way, and I have my circle of people whom I know I can depend on when things get rough. So both career-wise and personally. So.
And you don't have to be an extrovert, by the way, because that question comes up. Yeah, that question comes up a lot. Like, how do you network when you're an introvert? I'm an introvert. This kind of event is like my personal hell. Sorry. I'm just not a people person. Okay. But it's like show up. It's what we just heard. Sometimes you have to participate and get over yourself and get over your introvert self and just show up. For me, the solution is also often bigger. So that they
Nadia's volunteer.
Yeah, I always need an extrovert accompaniment, so I can take my breaks from the socializing as well. Like sometimes I'll just go to the restroom, not even because I have to, but just to have a moment of quiet. And then my extrovert friend is going to be like the one who just keeps the conversation going. So take your extrovert friend with you to, look after you. And remember, it's not that serious. We're just making movies. We're always kind of treating all these events and all these movies and video games as if it's like a life or death situation. It's not. It's just we make entertainment and games. It's not that deep. So I think we all just need to learn to relax a little bit.
We have some questions from our Discord audience that I wanted to ask our group. Gemma asks, I'm keen to hear ideas about how composers, assistants, engineers, orchestrators, arrangers, etc. operating in areas with lower concentrations of professional composers and those in areas of higher concentrations can support each other's growth outside the context of online communities like this.
This is a great question, by the way. It's basically, if you're in areas outside of LA or anywhere in the world, really, how do you support each other outside of a group like this? And I think Sarah just touched on it really eloquently, is show up. If you're going to say you're going to be there, be there. And it's one of those things where you got to show your support. You got to show that you're here for everyone and not just yourself. And that's what I think made this community successful and has made it grow so strongly the way it has, is because all of us are here for each other. We all have something to gain in one way or another, but we also have something to give, and that's probably the thing I'm proud of most, is that everyone is here to contribute, to add to the conversation, and not belittle anyone else. We're all supportive, we're all here. So back to the question again, if you want to show support for your community, take 2 minutes and listen to a demo. Give a couple of comments on it. Offer something that will help them grow. It's not like you have to give them the next project that you are gonna work on, but you can show that what they're doing is on the right path, or you can direct them to a path that's more constructive for them. And that's how we do it. That's how we do it from anywhere in the world. By the way, we're about to wrap up here, and I want to remind those watching on YouTube Live that there is going to be a prize drawing for the online viewers. So if you haven't already, go to the link, go to the description of the YouTube video. There should be a link there to a form where you can sign up and add your name to the list. But you got to do it before 9 o'clock Pacific time, so that's in about 1 hour from now.
There's so many good things you guys have said. It's like I don't. Just like there's so many. I love how we're talking about swimming in that soup of finding your tribe and your people, and how that promotes the connection that you're looking for. I think so much of that. I don't live here. Actually, I'm just hi. I play that game of I live here, but I don't live here. But you have your tribe with you regardless. And I know here we are all in this room, and it's a very hi. We're in LA, and we love LA. But that is such a reality too. Like this is a global profession. It's not just here. If you haven't networked with your local film community, like do it. Like so many cities, even if they're smaller, I know have the film festival runs. There are people who are passionate about this craft everywhere. And really like connecting with them, like that's how you can find your tribe of people. You don't need like as much as my people are you guys and you guys are here, there's such a big element of it too where it's like my tribe could be anywhere, right? You just have to find your people. And that being how you can support your own career and also get that support from others who can really help you progress forward on yours as well. There was another. Maybe we can quick round this. Brandon asked, "I'd like to know how everyone got their first composition gig," and I'm gonna leave it there. How did you get your first one? What's your story? And go for it, Sarah.
Well, this is good because I kind of wanted to bring this up. Working with Brian, if you're working for a composer, they're not really going to look out for you unless they're like super awesome, and they're out there, but most of them are just too busy to worry about your career. They need you to help them with theirs. But when you have to spot it yourself, and again with the service thing, or how can I help? Hey, Brian, I know you don't really want to do this show yourself. It's not really worth your time. The budget's really low. You're out here doing Avengers, and this is like a little documentary. What if we did it together? And I pulled double duty, and me and some other coworkers co-score it. And he says, "Well, you're still going to come to work, right?" "Yes, we're going to come to work. We're going to take shifts, but we're going to get it done on our off time. We're going to work like dogs for a month. Not going to see anyone, but you and our coworkers." But that's how I got mine, was that kind of situation. You got to keep your eye open for the opportunities that come in. He was going to let it go. We were like, no, let us do it. So that's how I got my first scoring thing. And then from that I got a documentary myself.
That's how it should be done. All right, so my first feature film. I was in a band at the time, and the director of the film licensed a couple of songs from our band, and that was really dope. And then my Joe, the guitar, and we hit it off really well, and it was a great experience and a great movie, and got to theaters and didn't do so well, but that's kind of how it goes, and we just keep
It was the
going.
first one, and you'll remember it.
Yeah, and it was great.
First ever or first actual legit project?
However you want to answer it, but I love that clarification.
No, but what they all have in common, at least for me, is I love a good challenge. I went to Berkeley, and a lot of people here, people that have been in the industry, they're like, you will never get legit work from social media. It's a waste of time. Don't cold email people. It's a waste of time. And for me, I always saw that as a challenge. And I love connecting with people. I love listening. I love, finding out what makes you unique. So that way I can form certain questions and give it them or free samples of my work. And for me, most of my work actually, maybe 40%, 45%, actually comes from just social media. But again, it takes time for that tree to give you crops. It's not going to be one week to the other. But just care. Just care about other creatives. That's really, there's no secret, but that's what's really worked for me.
So, like a few other people here, I can spot, I went through the Columbia College MFA. Super grateful for that. That was like a awesome experience all around. But when I moved to Chicago, I had grown up in New England. I went to my undergrad in Vermont. And when I moved to Chicago, I had one friend. It was a guy I was really close with. He was from there. He moved back there after school, so I connected with this guy, Ryan. And I got to be really good friends. He just folded me and the woman who became my wife into, their group of friends, and it was wonderful. And a couple of his friends, as we got to know each other, they said, "Hey, we're making this historical documentary. Whenever we're done, do you want to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Just reach out. And then, of course, as documentaries go, sometimes like several years later, my wife and I, we moved to LA. We're doing our thing. And they hit me up and say, "Hey, we're good to go." And they, I grew up playing acoustic and roots music, and they wanted an all-acoustic Americana score, so I was like, "Oh, this is great." And I was working as a full-time assistant at the time, and so kind of similar to what Sarah was saying, I would, because where we lived at the time in an apartment on the corner of Woodman and Moore Park in Sherman Oaks. And the morning traffic, we went to go see that place on a Sunday, and we're like, "Oh, it's really calm and chill." No, not at all. And so I would wake up at 4 in the morning to track all of my acoustics. So by the time rush hour hit, I was just comping. And then I would go and I'd work a full day, and then I'd come home, go to sleep, wake up and do it again. And that's how I ended up getting through this movie. And then when it came to prepping the sessions and doing everything else, my Columbia College community, were the ones who helped me do all the copying and the taping and everything else. All of those friends that I had made in school, that crew, particularly my friend Jessie, who has since really taken off and is doing amazing and wonderful work. And that was her just kind of struggling to find her way just when she first got there. I was like, "Oh, help me on this." And now I'm like, "Jessie, help." Yeah, no, so it was through friends, and so I guess that's really what it comes down to, is kind of exactly what Iran was saying, is people like to work with their friends, and Sarah was saying, show up, be friends, hang out, be social.
I think legit projects that I worked on, they all come from, cliche, connection, but I wanted to add, not just connection from composers you work with. Sometimes it could be a sound designer on a project, a synth designer, a musician, a producer. You never know. But how do you, sometimes most of the time they all came to me by surprise. And I think that's because one of the very important things you gotta do is to treat, this is also a cliche, treat every project that you thought didn't matter, like $1 million project that you're working on. You treat every cue that you write like something that you're wanting to put on your own Spotify. And that's how you will, trust me, just surprise other people that are just out there working on this project with you that you didn't even know about. And I feel like that's one of the things that got me on these projects, and also just be very, very, like Sarah said, very helpful, and then very attentive to, again, not just composers you work with, but also sometimes sound designers may ask for things, again, producers or any other filmmakers around you, or the project that the people you work for they're working on. Just always be very attentive and helpful and nice, because that's really just how you keep, you be in your life in a really good way.
Sure. Mine would be short answer YouTube, interestingly. Was before I did YouTube the way I do it now. But I did my finals at Artes in the Netherlands, at the Artes Conservatory, and it was kind of a similar situation like this, where we showed film scenes that I rescored on the big screen. And I took those scenes and posted them just on my YouTube channel, because why not? And it caught the attention of a young director, who then hired me to score his first film. So that was that.
You all found your people. Like, I hope that, like, comes through there. That's so much what I hear in all of those responses is you find your people and your people do stuff. This is a very collaborative craft, right? I think it's easy for me to forget that. I sit in front of my DAW and press the buttons, and I'm like, okay, and then I send it off to somebody else and hope that they like it or whatever. And it's hard sometimes to remember. And I'm grateful for this night that we have together to see so many people who are in this with us. Like, it's so collaborative. We're not just behind our computers by ourselves. That is all the time we have for. I want to just take a moment to, can you please all like clap for yourselves? Like, you guys are here and it's so freaking cool. Thank you for joining us tonight. As some of our appreciation from our incredible sponsors, no one is leaving here empty-handed. Impact Soundworks is giving all of you, in person and online, a 25% off coupon code. Good for any sized order. You just need to enter the code TEAM23OCT as in October at checkout, and you have to purchase it by October 23rd. If you forget any of these details, it'll be on our YouTube in the description, or you can always hit us up in the spaces where we are and ask. Thank you to all of you. Oh my gosh, Kenny and Anne and Callie and Jordan and Sarah and Iran and Mike and Nadia. Just thank you for sharing all of your insights with us and for being here and all of the work that you guys do on a regular basis. This wouldn't be possible without you.
How about it for Zack too, our moderator? Also, our great friend Carmichael deserves a round of applause for getting our YouTube feed up and running with an assist from Carl over there. Thank you. And if you're on YouTube, good night and thanks for coming. Real quick, our sponsors again are Performance Samples, Impact Soundworks, Naroth Audio, Joy Music House, Columbia College Chicago, Real Crafter, Motu, Sound Iron, Orchestral Tools, Film Scoring Tips, and Orange Tree Samples. So good night, YouTube. Everybody stay in your seats.
We would not be here, by the way, without Impact 24. Like, you guys, thank you so much for helping us make this happen. We're so grateful to you and all of the work and facilitating this. We really appreciate it.
Specifically, I want to thank Jocelyn Roman for putting this entire event together. And she's flanked by Andrew Cohen over there, and I don't see Elizabeth Forrest tonight, but she is also a wonderful person over at Impact 24. They are incredible, not just for what they do, but for the amount of for how accessible they are to anyone, no matter where they are in their careers. So if you're thinking of doing your first key PR campaign, like I did a couple years ago, they are the people to go to. So feel free to talk to them and get their contact info. And the last person I want to thank is Julian from the Landmark Westwood here that gave us our wonderful venue. So thank you tremendously. The video looked amazing.
Very good. Hooray. Okay, Kenny. Next.